Come on, man. Who is always looking out for you? Who is always keeping track of your life, watching from on high to make sure you're having the best time in your adventure on Earth? It's me, it's your Papa Jeffy. I want to tell you about something I just found out about. I want to tell you about a new podcast that's out there. It's called The LEETIST. The LEETIST, baby. It is a new podcast where three friends, and then they bring on a rotating guest. Maybe they'll bring me on sometime. I'd do this. This sounds like a great show. Listen to this. It's three pals and a rotating guest. They play games about games, right? The LEETIST Podcast, they put their own spin on trivia, classic game shows, board games, video games, and debate battles on a variety of video game topics. Let me say that again so you understand what they're doing. They literally have a podcast where you listen in and they are playing games about video games, okay? The guys at the LEETIST are coming up with new games all the time, and they want your help with game ideas too. Now you can drop these fellas a line on Twitter. Here's how you get there. You go to @TheLEETIST. Let me spell it for you. @ the little symbol, you know what I'm talking about. It's @ and then the LEETIST. LEETIST. At the LEETIST, and you can send them your original game ideas, trivia questions, debate topics for a chance to hear your creations on the show. And you know, you goddamn right, that's going to come with an epic shout out, of course, when you listen to the podcast where they use your idea and make you famous. Now listen, check the show's Twitter feed now to find the Google form. This is a great form, by the way, for their upcoming video game Family Feud. They have these great questions. It's a really cool survey that you can fill out about things like, what's the best dungeon in the Legend of Zelda series? What's the toughest monster to kill in the Resident Evil franchise? And then they're going to take those answers and use them for the surveys in the video game Family Feud episode coming up very soon. The LEETIST Podcast, you old so-and-sos, that's games about games. And you can find it now on all major podcast platforms. You goddamn right, that's true. It's good to see everybody except you, Captain Hogwash. God damn, Captain Hogwash, where you been? Where you been, you old so-and-so? Here's what I like to think happened to Captain Hogwash. Hogwash was basically hanging out, waiting for Becky Lynch to come back. Becky Lynch shows back up in the wrestling last week, and he's like, all right, I can come back to normal. And Mama Hogwash is all like, Hoggy, why don't you get out of the basement and come up here with the family? Shut up, Ma! I'm waiting for Becky Lynch, the man. You waiting for a man? The point is, welcome to Gabbing Games for Monday. Hey, it's August 31st. It's the fall, man. The fall's there you go, Afro Alley. Afro Alley's popping up pictures of Mama Hogwash right there. If you were a member of Gabbing Games, you too could have these fancy schmancy icons. That is literally, I want to tell you guys something. We're going to talk in just a second very briefly about this kind of new little tool that's going around where people are putting in pictures of video game characters and they're spitting out, the computer spits out what they look like in real life. If you actually look at the picture that Afro Alley just put up, that little icon right there, that is an actual picture of Mama Hogwash, of Captain Hogwash's mama. I don't want to put that into the goddamn computer. I think my system would fucking crash. That's how terrifying she is. Kaiden's putting up one on there as well. But anyway, the point is, welcome to Gabbing Games. I apologize, I've been absent. I had a really busy couple of weeks, kind of crazy couple of weeks. I made a video about it. I've been losing myself in Miles Morales' Spider-Man. I've been losing myself in the director's cut of Ghost of Tsushima on the PS5. We are going to talk about a revelation. That's right, I say a revelation I've had about Xbox versus PlayStation a little bit later in the goddamn show. Hogwash says that picture is very close to the way his mama actually looks. I believe it. I absolutely believe it. Let us just begin. Hello, by the way, Afro Alley. Thank you so much for that first super chat of the day. I appreciate it. When is David Jaffe going to do Donda listening stream, says Peapod. He's talking about Kanye West's new album that just dropped this weekend. You know what? I asked my kids, I said, have you heard it? One of them said, yeah. Sarah said, yeah, I have. It's good. I haven't liked a Kanye album probably since, certainly, Graduation. Was that the one where, that I had Good Life? Like, I like his pop shit, man. I'm not a big fan of, like, when he started getting into more experimental shit. So I don't know if this one goes back or not to that style or what happened. If Becky Lynch is the man, says Solomon, who is the woman? Becky Lynch is both. That's the point. People get a little confused when Becky Lynch calls herself the man. If you don't know what we're talking about, she's this sexy Irish lass, straight out, I don't know where the fuck she's from. Maybe Ireland. I don't think so, though. And she is ultimately, I don't think she's Becky Two Belts anymore. But I think she's SmackDown Women's Champion, for whatever that's worth to you. College Dropout is great. Graduation is great. I love his stuff. Absolutely. Dark Beautiful Fantasy was the last one, says Jonathan, he liked. That was the one that sort of turned me off. I'll give you a quick video game story. Then we're going to get into the news. I was at Bartlett Jones with Nick Kunanellis, who is now the lead runner. I mean, Mike Mumbauer is the CEO. Nick is kind of running the deal in terms of management of That's No Moon, this new company that, by the way, just announced today they hired Rob Davis, one of the lead designers of the new God of War, away from Santa Monica, or actually I think he got hired away from Apple now, and now he's at That's No Moon. But anyway, so Nick Kunanellis and I are fans of hip-hop. Nick's bigger than I am into it. We were listening to the Kanye album when we were building desks together for Bartlett Jones, and I remember going, yeah, I don't like this new Kanye. I like the old school Kanye, but that was the one that was what was it called? Dark Beautiful Fantasy or whatever. That was the one that I was like, not my cup of tea. Not my cup of tea. We're gonna get to that endless synthwave. Wants to talk about the news coming out of China, where they're limiting kids' playtime. We will talk about all that shit today. Absolutely, 100%. But first, I do want to talk about. I want to tell you two things. I want to tell you two quick things. Let me bring them up on your TV screen right there. I know, you old so-and-so. Boom. I just want to let you know, bring your attention for the next week running on Steam. I know not everybody's a PC gamer, but I highly recommend that you be a PC gamer when you have the means. It's fantastic. It is so rich with opportunity to play games. It is so overflowing with experiences that you really just can't get anywhere else. This week, for the next week on Steam, is called the Indie Houses. You've basically got a celebration of indie games. I know people like Bacon Magma is going to be like, fuck that shit, whatever, you old fucking moron. Here's the point. Look at all these goddamn games. You get over 40 demos that you can play. You get developers coming online. This is not an ad, by the way. Trust me, I'm just telling you, this excites me as a designer and as a gamer, more importantly. I love the fact that I can just go here and try shit out all day long and experience games that I probably wouldn't have played before and then I might fall in love with, like I did with Unpacking last year. So anyway, this is happening right now. I really recommend, if you have the ducats or if you save up the ducats one day, get yourself a PC. Console gaming is great. We'll talk about console gaming most of the show. But I will say that PC gaming is really fucking fantastic. I also want to let you know, you guys know about this. You've seen this shit, right? It's called StyleCLIP. I'm going to try to get this installed tonight on my computer, speaking of. But it's I don't know, I can't really articulate what it is other than I've seen people putting in video game characters and what the computer spits out or what the characters would look like in real life. You can do a lot of other things as well. You can put yourself in, if you're a black guy, and say, what would I look like as an Asian white guy or as an Asian guy? And then what would I look like as a Eurasian guy? You know, all you can do, what would I look like with curly hair, you know, whatever. So it's pretty cool, but somebody puts, or IGN puts Kratos in. And what I thought was funny about this, if you're listening to the podcast, which I appreciate, thank you very much for that, and you're not watching it, which I also appreciate, this is a picture of Kratos, the original Kratos from the first God of War games, the first 3 and the Vita games and whatnot, or the PSP games, and they ran him through, and he doesn't look, yeah, you're not the only one. Jeff B. Gaming says he kind of looks like Jaffe. What's weird is that's not untrue. The minute I saw it, people are like, God, that's horrifying. A lot of people are basically saying that, yeah, I mean, not a lot, but I've seen about 20 people online say, that looks like you, Jaffe. And I'm like, yeah, the fact of the matter is, that's kind of the first thing I thought when I saw it too. Kratos in human form is, you know, probably not the the most handsome fellow. There's Nathan Drake. You can see all these online over at IGN on their Twitter feed. But there, again, I'm going to be putting some of these up too because it's really a lot of fun. Ellie from The Last of Us is weird because she looks almost the same. She looks just a little bit older. The Jack one is weird from Jack and Daxter. But anyway, there you go. This is Salty says this is what nightmares are made of. I mean, I agree. It's a little creepy. Kratos has more hair than I do, says Hogwash. He kind of does. I don't know how that gets determined. I don't know if the computer did that or they said, let's put some fucking hair on him, or I have no clue. But there you go. All right. I want to talk about Dead Space right off the bat. I watched this today. I don't know if some of you guys watched this or not, but it was about a 30-minute... It was about a 30-minute show. Forget the format of the show. I thought the two hosts were just... I can't handle these fucking host kind of people anymore. They're just so... Everything's great, and I love that. That's so interesting. It's just so fake and false and bullshit. But anyway, that aside, these guys, this was on the left, you've got the exec producer. On the right, you've got the creative director, okay? And they were showing off, I guess it's a remake of Dead Space. It's not a new Dead Space chapter. It's kind of a retelling of the first one. It's not a remaster. It's a remake, okay? And you can see this over on the Twitch. But what was interesting is, so let me just get to the core first. So they didn't show gameplay really. It's very early, but they did show game assets, and they showed Isaac, who's the main character. Here you can see it on your screen right here. It looks pretty fucking good. I mean, it's really early. There's no enemies. The set isn't even that dressed, but it's very nice to see. I've only played Dead Space 2. I adored it. One of my favorite games. I actually finished it, which says something. And, it looks pretty cool. It's got great ambiance and atmosphere, and the fog and the smoke's rising up, and there's real-time shadows on the walls moving around. It's cool. And then later on in the show, or in their presentation, they also showed off kind of like a demo room where they showed off shooting whatever the xenomorph, I don't know if they're not called xenomorphs, whatever the fuck they're called, but they're just kind of showing there's more articulation, and there's more places where you can hit them in the body that affects the game and things like that. Okay. So, great. It was fine. Nothing was wrong with it. Okay. There was absolutely, Eternal says already better lighting and less flat than the original. Well, yeah, because we're talking 13 years. Since then, okay? But here's what bothered me and worried me. Worried's the wrong word. I don't really give a fuck. I mean, I'm always hopeful when a game comes out that it's going to be good for the sake of the team, because I've been on teams that have won and teams that have lost. It's always great when you win. But I'm always excited as a player, especially for a franchise and especially for a genre that I really enjoy. And what was really disturbing to me about, or what was that? I'm looking for the right descriptor. It wasn't disturbing. It was just disappointing. There you go. What was really disappointing to me about this was both of these guys really, neither of them spoke to horror. Neither of them spoke to game design, right? And I get it. They're holding a lot of their cards close because it's a horror game. They want to keep things, secret and unveil them and surprise you and all that. I respect that. I understand that tactics, okay? But the vast majority, if not all of what they talked about on this was about, it's all going to be seamless. So it's all loading. It's always loading. There's no load screens. Big deal, but it's sure great. And the lighting and the atmosphere and the effects and the dismemberment. It was all tech. It was you would expect maybe the producer to talk about that, but you want the creative, and I'm going somewhere with this besides just telling you why I'm a little bit of a worried about this. You want the creative director to be jumping out of his seat, even if he's not acting that way, but in terms of what he's saying. Like, if you ever listen to like a game director, or specifically let's talk horror, if you listen to like a horror director talk of a game, like if you've listened to, I forget the guy's name, is it Itagaki? No, that's not right. I forget the guy's name, but the guy who directed the Resident Evil 4 game, and there's a documentary with him on YouTube talking about that game. Or you listen to like people like Mike Flanagan, horror directors, Mick Garris, horror director. They are really immersed in the concept of horror and how to scare and what the essence of the medium is doing to the player or the viewer in order to get them scared. Neither of these guys are talking about anything other than the tech. Mikami, that's the guy's name. Yes, thank you so much, John. Yeah, and somebody in the chat is saying, well, yeah, but it's a remake. It's not their creation. I understand that. But in that point, then what you would have them say is, we are trying to make basically the exact way that you felt playing Dead Space 1 with this one, and here's how we're going to do it and talk about it creatively. But these guys are not really, they're telling you it's going to be scary, but they're not, they don't really paint a picture as to why it's going to be scary. I'm bringing this up for two reasons, by the way. Okay, I'm bringing this up because I see a lot of people online going, wow, this is amazing. I'm so excited, blah, blah, blah. When in my mind, the one people should, be excited about whatever the fuck you want. But the one that I'm excited about, that I think more people should be excited about, is the Callisto Project, which is actually headed up by the guys who made Dead Space 1 and 2. About 25 people from that original team have come over. Those guys have sort of earned their chops, right? They have shown they understand horror. They've shown they understand how to make this kind of game. If you look at the pedigree of this team, again, I'm not knocking the game. I'm looking forward to it. The art looks great. God of War says, we know Dead Space 1. We don't know the new tech. But why is that what's driving you to the game? That's what I think is disturbing. You know what's different between game fans and movie fans? When they remade Psycho shot for shot with new effects and new actors and color film and all the latest and greatest gadgets, film fans lost their shit. They were like, you can't remake a classic. Why don't you make a sequel? Why don't you tell a story in that world, maybe with these characters? But we already have Psycho. And video game fans are just like, oh yeah, just talk about making it look prettier. I have a real problem with that. Yeah, Seth says Glenn Schofield, who was the director of Dead Space 1 and 2, was really passionate about horror. Bray Nave says Callisto Protocol will be essential, but so will be Dead Space. I don't know how you can say that. I don't know how in the world you can say that. Anyway, though, here's why it's important to me. Your mileage will vary, and I appreciate that, okay? And I'm not here to knock this team. I'm looking forward to this game, okay? But this is going somewhere. This is me going, this guy, this director, Roman Campos Areola. Sounds positively filthy. Roman Campos Areola is the creative director, okay? Now, I'm only bringing this up because I want you to look. This is a problem the game industry has overall, which is they don't hire creatives as often as they should for the right job. And this goes up and down the chain. I'm going to give you some examples. But if you were to make a horror game or a horror remaster of one of the great, I wouldn't say it's the greatest, but one of the top 20 horror games of all time, why would you pick the guy as creative director who has done For Honor as the creative director, and then a bunch like Red Steel 2, Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon, Conflict Zone, Act of War? Why in the world would you say this is the guy that needs to lead this effort creatively? I'm not knocking him. Maybe he's been waiting his whole life to get a crack at horror. I don't fucking know. But if he has, then you would sort of think he would be talking about it like, oh my God, I have to tell you, I saw Night of the Living Dead when I was 7 years old, and I went and I waited 6 hours in front of George Romero's hotel, and I came out and he signed my poster, and I still have it in the office, and everybody comes to look at it. I mean, there'd be some sense of passion about horror. Yeah, it's not just new tech, says JG. It's more immersive graphics. That makes no sense. That means nothing. Improved frame rate, sure. Revised gameplay mechanics, sure. But how does that apply to horror? And from what it looks like, a seamless no loading experience like God of War 2018. God of War 2005 was no loading either, right? These are all things that are buzzwords. These are all things for the most. I'm not saying they don't matter. I was impressed by the graphics. But to act like because there's no load screens, games, man, the first game I played with no load screens was Blasto on PS1. Okay? When you're talking about new play mechanics, that's great. Explain to me how those mechanics are going to take what Dead Space is and make it scarier, make it more immersive, right? It's a one-cut experience, but so what? I love God of War 2018, one of my favorite games I've played in the last couple years. Phenomenal game. I'm sorry, the one-cut experience didn't do shit. Sorry, Corey, didn't do shit. It was a lot of work, and I don't think anybody would have cared if you would have cut that camera. Fast loading, I agree. Fast loading is fantastic. Okay. It doesn't. Zaf says not everybody talks that way though. Plus, this is a corporate promotional interview. I don't expect a candid discussion. I'm not saying you should expect a candid discussion, but you should expect the people who are selling you their shit, which is what this is. It's a sales tool to come out and speak passionately about and excitedly and get you amped up. But hey, man, don't get me wrong. If what you're saying is what excites you is graphics, then you're all set to go. But I want to carry on with this thread for a moment because this is not the only place we see it in games, okay? Another place we saw it in games is Uncharted 4, okay? Uncharted 4 is a game that really, I think, is one of the weakest in the fucking series. And I love The Last of Us Part 2. I'm not shitting on Neil Druckmann or anything, but he's the wrong guy to direct Uncharted. And I understand for whatever reason, this, that, or the other, they weren't able to have Amy directing it, fine. But there's the right people to put in charge of a game, not just someone who's like, well, he won't, he won't cause the whole place to fall apart. Uncharted under Neil Druckmann is like Indiana Jones under Martin Scorsese. They're great directors and it's a great franchise, but I don't want that in my Uncharted or in my Indiana Jones, right? So it's about pairing the proper creative with the proper IP. I don't see a lot of games do it. There's another place this happens, by the way, which you'll recognize. This came out this week, Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. I read this first. This was on IGN. It was an interview with the director, Johan Roberts, okay? And he goes, and I don't know if you read this. Oh, let me show you. I don't know if you read this or not. Here's a terrible image. This isn't his fault, though. This is a fault of marketing. This image, if you can't see it, looks like something out of the Spirit Halloween store costume catalog. It's terribly lit, terribly composed, and marketing should have known better. It's like they had some good images they released, but this wasn't one of them. But anyway, when you read this interview with the guy, it doesn't really sound like he is... it sounds like he's doing lip service. It doesn't really, again, I get, so much money is being spent to make movies and games these days that it becomes easier and easier to believe that these big budget titles, whether they're games or movies or whatnot, are more often than not, half the job, if not more, is being political and being, telling people what they want to hear, which I guess is what it means in some ways to be political. And maybe half the job is being creative. And you don't really want those people at a creative level guiding the ship. Now, if you're investing $200 million, you might want them up there. But he says, he's talking about, here's the question posed by IGN. Resident Evil is one of the most commercially successful video game movie franchises ever, which is sadly true. Why reboot it instead of continuing it, asked IGN. Johan says, I actually love the first movie so much. I think it's great. And Mia Jovovich just created such an iconic character. No, she didn't. No, she didn't. I'm sorry. I don't think, if you asked 1,000 people what your top 3 favorite movies are, I would be stunned if more than 2 mentioned Resident Evil. It's just horseshit, right? But whatever, give the guy the benefit of the doubt. I'm not in a cranky mood. Give the guy the benefit of the goddamn doubt. Fine, okay? But it sounds like it's a bunch of lip service horseshit. So I'm like, well, what has this guy done? What has this guy done? So I go to his, Rotten Tomatoes page, and this is where it gets interesting to me about matching the creative with the right product. This guy made one movie, 2010, that has a 77% good score, 23% audience rating. Everything else is below 53%. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 movies below 50%. So who in the goddamn world decided to go out and hire Johan Roberts and is like, hey, you know what? You know who we should fucking hire? We should fucking hire Johan Roberts, whose last movie got a 45%. And the movie before that, Strangers Pray at Night, got a 40 and a 34% audience score. Let's give this guy, the creative reins, right? What's really, and here's, now this guy's Ruben, video game movies a little bit different sometimes. This is Ruben Fleischer. This is the guy who's directing Uncharted. He's kind of a mixed bag. It's almost like Sony's kind of doing it right, maybe. He's got 2 hits where he's got Zombieland as a director, 1 and 2, and then he's got something called The Mule, but he wasn't a director on that. So he's got one franchise he's done well with, which is Zombieland. Everything else is terribly reviewed, okay? We'll see on that one. But look at this. This is what Marvel does. Marvel goes out and they get, so you got Saltiest going, how do new directors get jobs? This is exactly how they do it. They go out and they get these directors who haven't directed necessarily big movies, but they've directed very respected and well-received and, movies that really do hit a sweet spot of a tone or a message or a way of telling a story. So this is the woman who directed, and I haven't even seen Black Widow. I hear it's just okay? But this is the woman who directed Black Widow. Look, she's got her lowest movie is 50, and then she's got 80, 76, 84, 94. If you go look at even the guys who made Captain Marvel, which I thought was fine. It wasn't great. I intentionally picked the 2 Marvel movies that a lot of people say they don't like, okay? Joe, The Mule, he didn't direct, though. He was the producer on it. These guys have a 91, a 92, and a 90 Rotten Tomatoes. Now, yeah, they have a 58 as a director, and that's their lowest as a director. But all I'm saying is this idea of not putting the proper talent with the proper product is problematic. Okay, well, I will take him to the doctor tomorrow then. That's new news, breaking news, folks. My dog has an ear infection. Poor guy. But anyway, yeah, when I look at the Dead Space thing, I'm not sitting around pissing on Dead Space. I'm looking forward to it. If you look at the graphics, it looks pretty fucking good. It's really ambiance or has a lot of ambiance. It's very, very nice. But, I'm sorry. I think we need, it's, what it is, fellas? I get really frustrated, clearly. I get really frustrated when we don't hold video game movies, but more importantly, games to the same level of scrutiny. It's almost like we say, well, we want these things to be art. We think they're art, and yet we don't demand as an audience what the audience for film and television and music and literature, they have a much higher threshold of quality than we do. We see, seriously, if I showed you guys a shot from, hey, here's a shot from a new Aliens movie that's being directed by someone you've never heard of, who's directed nothing than some Navy SEAL action movies, which is kind of the equivalent of what this guy's directed. And it was just some character, let's say it was a new character playing Ripley, who wasn't Sigourney Weaver, walking through a hall. I mean, people would go, okay, what the fuck is it? That's all I'm saying. It bothers me a little bit. Let me go to the chat. Let me get some super chats, and we're gonna move on as friends do. Carl B. Man says, thanks. I don't know what he's thanking me for, but I appreciate it, you being here, and I appreciate you dropping some ducats in the hat. Thank you, Carl, very, very much, sir. It's very generous. Harry Johnson, oh, come on, y'all, so-and-so. He drops a 2-spot. Thank you, sir. He says, sup, Jaffe. Very aggressive today, huh? I'm not aggressive. I'm just, I'm passionate. That's the difference. I'm a passionate fellow who talks about the stuff that I care about, that I love. Now, do I understand that not everybody on the goddamn planet is like me? Of course I understand that, Harry Johnson. I understand that. I understand that not everybody on the goddamn planet is like me, and some people just like to get along. They don't want to have conflict. They don't want to get in people's faces. I get it. Oh, I get it. But that's not me. That's never been me. I like to get in there and scrap it up a little bit. Basically, don't hire garbage directors, says Adversary 1. Well, I don't think this guy's a garbage director. This is what people are going to get confused about. If people care enough to write about this shit, which they won't, thank God, they'll say, Jaffe thinks this guy's shit. I don't know this guy. He might be brilliant. I'm just saying that the optics are not good. The optics are not good for the Resident Evil guy, right? It's like, don't direct the Resident Evil movie and come out and just talk the talk. We're not morons, okay? Just, you know what I would respect more? If the guy says, hey, look, man, I got to work. I'm a director. I got kids to feed. I love the Resident Evil games. They're okay. I've never finished one, but sure. I'll fucking make the movie, and I think I can make a pretty good movie. At least it would be honest. All right, let's bring in King of Pain and see what the fuck he's on. King of Pain, it's Jaffe. What's up, baby? Go. Come on now. Jesus Christ, where'd your mother and I go wrong? King of Pain. You old so-and-so. Let's bring in Mavi. Mavi the Mav. What you up to, buddy? Mavi, why you on? Okay, well, you're on whenever you want to jump on, baby. They need to get Eileen Dover. I don't know who that is. So why does Metacritic score matter now and not before, says Saltius. I don't understand your question, Saltius. Can you ask it again? Concentrate and ask again, says the Magic 8 Ball, which is my head. What do you mean? What do you mean? Why do they, what does that actually mean? I don't know what that means. Eternal says people are excited and want to see what goes into the making of an upcoming game. I don't see the issue. There is no issue. There is no, the sky is falling. I'm not saying I'm not looking forward to this video game, Dead Space Remake. I'm just saying that, hey, if we are going to engage in conversations about the medium, which is really what this podcast is, or stream or whatever you want to call it,
I think that
then let's talk about the goddamn medium. And the medium is such that, hang on. The medium is such that you can be excited about something, but you can also keep it in the proper context. I'm not suggesting don't be excited about it. That's great. All right, Mavi, what's up?
Hey, so yeah, what you were basically saying right now about the new Dead Space game, I think there is a disconnect between, the people directing it and then the actual source content. But then again, EA, I feel like they made this game as like a rebuttal to the Callisto Protocol. They basically said, look, we have these IPs sitting here. EA's been doing it for the last couple of years. They brought back Skate 4 after, the last couple of years. And Skate 4 was a game that was on the back burner. Basically, Skate 3 didn't sell well, so they're like, screw it. That's how the business works. Something doesn't sell well with the AAA companies, they're not going to continue to pump these games out. But after, the whole Star Wars Battlefront 2, when that just blew up in their face with the microtransactions, they're trying to save face and they're trying to dig at their old IPs. And they're like, oh, they're just reaching for low-hanging fruit, I think, by trying to make this. But it's not gonna be on the same level of Callisto Protocol, but I think it might even sell better than Callisto Protocol just because it is a recognizable IP.
I'm not entirely sure I agree with you any more than I think that a Mirror's Edge would sell better than a new parkour game because it's a recognizable IP. Dead Space was never a massive. It wasn't like, somebody in the chat says EA is remaking Dead Space as a response to RE2 Remake. And again, if it's as good as that, or even 70% good as that, I think they got something cooking. But ultimately, though, this franchise, Dead Space, has never been what Resident Evil was, right? It was always kind of a B-tier franchise that people were passionate about, but I don't think it was ever some massive, huge hit, was it? Am I remembering it wrong?
Well, no, it wasn't. But the thing is, it was something that kind of built a cult following, and then EA ran it to shit. They said, oh, Resident Evil 6 is coming out, and they're a freaking third-person co-op shooter, and that's what people want. So They made co-op in the third one, and it didn't sell well because the hype was dead. People are just like, oh, it was basically trying to be Resident Evil 4 in space when it came out. You could tell there was a lot of heavy inspiration there.
Yeah, I mean, there is a real problem there, you know what? It may be unavoidable. We talk about it a lot, but there is a real problem amongst things that get expensive that require so much oversight that you drain the creative just sheer out of the goddamn thing. We got somebody in the chat, Diego Silvio, which I think this is wonderfully worded better than I could, but he basically says, although now I've kind of I lost the goddamn thing. He says, I think horror should come from a place of creative honesty and passion. Corporate horror always falls flat. Right, I agree with that. I think horror is raw, it is emotional. Maybe that's what I'm missing, right? If this director, is just, even if he's quiet as a fucking church mouse, right? But he's just dripping with some sense of of weird or passion or darkness. I mean, that's the guy I want making, or the girl I want making my horror games. This guy just seems like, he just seems like a normal, nice dude. He's
got a nice resume. They said, hey, let's, give it to this guy. He can handle a, AAA game. But it's the same disconnect that we see in Hollywood where, like, the Resident Evil movies, they totally sucked because they gave it to people that knew nothing about the actual franchise. They said, oh, here's a bunch of artwork probably. Here's a couple cutscenes. Make something. And it's the same loop that Mortal Kombat is stuck in. The original Mortal Kombat, it got approved. The script was approved by Ed Boon. And that's why it was, you saw Liu Kang, you saw Sub-Zero, and that's what we wanted to see.
Did he not? Ed Boon did not approve the new Mortal Kombat script?
Ed Boon didn't even promote it on his social media.
But that doesn't mean he didn't read the script, did he?
Well, the thing is, I don't know about that, but I know he didn't promote it, and he promoted the shit out of their new animated cartoons.
I am gonna
really close.
Yeah, there's a new one coming out today, right? There's a new Mortal Kombat animated film out today, actually.
Basically, it's Mortal Kombat 3, the animated movie. So
very, very cool. Good. All right, buddy. As always, I love you calling in. Call back anytime, sir.
Later.
All right, see ya. Okay, let me bring in King of Pain real quick, and then we'll move on. But what I'm... Oh, by the way, fuck you. I get it now. Ha ha, you piece of shit. Somebody in the chat is... Where did it go? I didn't even get the joke, because I'm very busy. Fuck you, Egg Zero Signal. What was her name that I fucked up? Oh, I don't even know where it went. What's her name? But bend over. Fuck you. I know what you're doing, you old so-and-so. Ellen Dover. Fuck you. Okay. I'm going to bring in King of Pain. Here we go. King of Pain 99. That was my fault, not yours. What's up, buddy? Go.
Yo, all right. I got a few questions for you.
Yes, go.
First being, all right, so you're making a Twisted Metal live-action show. How do you feel about, have they talked about any directors for that yet?
I know I don't think, well, I'm sure they haven't talked about that to me, but the TV's a little bit different. TV is more of a showrunner, writer, producer world than a director. Not always by any means, but more often than not, the director of television tends to be more of a hired gun, which is why you'll see directors come in and out of various shows. But the showrunner and executive producer tend to be the same unless something goes south, right? So that's why if you watch a show like old school The West Wing, or you watch a show like The Walking Dead, you'll see very similar names on the end credits, but directed by can change all the time. So, but the behind the scenes pedigree of the people on the Twisted Metal TV series, it's pretty good. I mean, they're guys who did Zombieland, Deadpool, stuff like that. So they kind of have a vibe with the kind of thing Twisted Metal could be.
So when you have these video game franchises that are being brought over to the big screen, do you think it's important to maybe have somebody close to the IP, or, for instance, Neil Druckmann with HBO for The Last of Us? I mean, is that...
Right.
Is that kind of the key thing, or are we okay with giving these newcomers a shot? I mean, we don't know if they're going to fail unless they try, right?
Well, here's the real problem with it. The real problem with it is I can't think of one video game, movie, or adaptation yet that is solely made because the people who are making it found the game and said, this will make a terrific fucking movie. Like, it's not like Reese Witherspoon when she finds a book she likes and says, Reese Witherspoon, if you don't know, just sold her company for almost $1 billion. And it's not because she owns any intellectual property. It's because she has found about 4 books and was able to produce them and turn them into hit television series for a very lucrative demographic, right? Well, she's not going out and going, oh, everybody's reading 50 Shades of Grey, let me get the rights to that. She is literally finding books that she says, this will make a great movie or TV series, and she's off to the races. Well, the vast majority, if not all, of the video game movies and TV shows I can think of are, I don't want to say cash grabs. Like, I don't think PlayStation Productions is trying to do cheap cash grab movies. I'm sure they want to be Marvel. They want to make great movies, but the DNA of video games is not the DNA of comics, right? And so as much as gamers want to believe these are great stories, so I think the issue is the idea of, like, even take Lara Croft. The first Lara Croft movie, Tomb Raider, whatever they called it, had a really good director. He was the guy who directed Speed. He was the guy who directed Twister. It's a very forgettable movie because there's really nothing to Lara Croft. right? She's back in the day, she was sexy and she was Indiana Jones, and then you've got to invent the whole fucking thing from scratch. I think that's the bigger issue. So you could get the hardest core Lara Croft or Uncharted fan in the world or whatever. It doesn't matter, because you would be building on the bones of something that really isn't that rich at a storytelling level to begin with.
Right. But I mean, I guess for me, at the end of the day, being a big Resident Evil fan in general is, I can't remember. The first movie came out when I was like 9 or 10, something like that. I don't remember when it was. I just remember going to see it. And I remember being so excited because to me, that was my first experience with I love video games and now they're coming to the big screen.
Sure.
So the first 3 Resident Evil movies to me were just awesome.
Yeah, but you were a kid. I mean, when you're a kid, like I've said many times, Clash of the Titans, God of War would not exist without Clash of the Titans, one of my favorite movies of all time. It's a terrible movie. But when you're 10 years old, it's the greatest thing in the goddamn world. Right.
But that was kind of going into my next point. As I got older and the last 3 installments were released, I'm like, fuck, man, these kind of suck. They're so convoluted. The story is mixed up. She gets her powers taken away. Now, then she gets them back. And it kind of was just a bunch of mumbo jumbo. And I feel like it just completely took away from what the first 3 movies kind of set. I mean, obviously they were...
I couldn't even tell you. I saw the first one. I liked the room with the lasers that cut people in half. And I mean, I think other than that, I barely remembered the fucking thing. But I mean, I'm not saying that you're alone. Clearly, the movies have done well for Sony Pictures. I'm just saying that I don't, like I said, I don't think most people would list them in their top 3 movies of all time. I think they're successful,
probably not.
But those movies could have been successful probably if you didn't even call them Resident Evil, because they're horror, low budget horror does well if there's enough of a gimmick. All right, buddy, thank you for the call. I appreciate it, man.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, see you, bud. I want to address somebody in the chat real quick because I did already get to this. Saltiest, by the way, if I missed your logic for the Rotten Tomatoes thing, let me know. I'm not sure I understood what you were talking about. But somebody in the chat, and I'm looking for him, I don't want to miss your name, Doug, says only directors with high Rotten Tomato Metacritic scores can get a chance. Well, again, I just showed you that's not the case. If you're talking about Marvel directors, that's probably true, and that's a good thing. But no, I mean, the guy who directed Resident Evil, I showed you guys his Rotten Tomato scores, they're abysmal. 37, 40, audience scores, 21%, 29%. They don't give a fuck. They just want, what he probably is good at is he listens to the producer. He has a good reputation on set. He gets things done on time, on budget, if not under, and he delivers what he promised, and good enough is good enough. And that's fine. It's a business. Sometimes that's more than you can ask for. But there you go. Johnson, how can you call? You basically put yourself into the Discord. You join our Discord. You know what? Rob the Mod is not here. We have some great mods right now. I know RPG's on. If anybody can link him to the Discord, you put yourself in there. Then you put yourself in what's called the call-in waiting room, and you call in. Okay, he was being sarcastic. Well, I don't fucking know. Anyway, let us move on. I want to talk about, Rob the Mod, man. Everybody give a little love to Rob the Mod. Rob's power is probably off. He's probably knee deep in fucking alligator water because he's in the heart of Louisiana right now dealing with hurricane aftermath. Did you guys see, we're going to get back to video games. Did you guys see there are people up in their attics in New Orleans right now? That's how deep some of the water is. And the mayor of New Orleans, I think it was New Orleans, says, hey, y'all be careful. There's alligators in the fucking water. I mean, what is going on? And then we got fires out here in Nevada. God, Lake Tahoe. God damn, shit's falling apart, man. Shit's fucking falling apart. JB says, Jaffe, hey, listen. What's up, JB? He says, listen, Jaffe, I'm not excited about the new Uncharted movie, honestly. What made me love Uncharted was the gameplay. I didn't care about the story. Uncharted 4 is my least favorite due to long cutscenes. I'm with you, man. I'm with you. And again, I am not sitting around shitting on Neil Druckmann. I think Last of Us Part 2 is a phenomenal fucking video game. I love it. But I don't think he's the right guy to be directing Uncharted. Now, maybe Sony was like, Jaffe, we don't necessarily disagree. And Neil Druckmann could even say, I don't disagree. But when Amy stepped out of that role, maybe they were like, look, we got to put somebody in here fast, and Neil has experience on the title. I don't fucking know. Hello, Rotten Tanuki. God damn it. We're running a brand new ad for Rotten today. It's not finished, but we're going to put it in there anyway. All right. I want to talk about Naughty Dog a little bit. There was a very comprehensive, interesting interview that was done by the boys at Naughty Dog. Neil Druckmann and Evan Wells sat down with Game Informer, and you can read all about it on the Game Informer website. But it was really interesting. They said a couple of things. I want to just talk about those. The first one that jumped to my mind was them talking about the crunch, okay? But it was the way Kotaku reviewed this interview, basically, which is kind of what they were doing. The headline is Naughty Dog's bosses still don't get it. Last of Us Studio co-president Evan Wells hasn't, quote, put a lot of thought, end quote, into the idea of unionization. And it basically says, he says, where did he put this line? It was just like so smarmy. It's so smarmy. For Wells to brush off the notion entirely is a disservice to hardworking employees who've clamored for better working conditions and who've pointed to unionization as a potential solution. This is what he said, Evan Wells, the president of Naughty Dog, when he was asked about, what do you think about unions? He says, I haven't put a lot of thought into it. I don't know if that would be a solution for crunch. To Neil's point about making sure everyone is able to work as hard or as little as they want, we've got to create an environment that allows that. If we had some sort of restriction, he says, where the clock strikes 40 hours, the servers shut down, and you can't work anymore, that would frustrate people to no end. There are people who really want to put in the extra polish of their own volition, and they would feel handcuffed. It's not wrong. It's not wrong. I'm so fucking tired of these fucking journalists. It's like, you know what, man? Here's what you should write. I don't want to talk about it anymore. There's the story. You know what I'm going to say. What I'm going to say is, here's what you should fucking write. You should say, hey, we at Kotaku are not a fan of crunch. We think it's bad. But you know what? If you're going to go work at these studios that historically are known for crunch, buyer beware if you're going to complain about it. That's all. I mean, because look, that's what Naughty Dog is. They're one of the best studios on the face of the goddamn earth. In the known universe, they may very well be the best goddamn studio on the face of the goddamn earth. They're also one of the crunchiest. Gee, what's related here besides the fact that they're also one of the most talented? What's related here? Maybe the fact that people go there and they work like fucking, war horses. Right? Megadavo dropped super chat. Guess what, Megadavo? Thanks for your money. I won't read that. Because you're a child. Just because you pay me. I mean, think about that. Think about the fact, Megadavo, that you think I'm going to read anything because you gave me ducats. Take your goddamn money back if you actually think I'm going to read that. Not to say I agree or disagree, but I'm not a 12-year-old boy who hangs out in the playroom and engages in console wars, you fucking moron. But thank you for your money. I love you just the same. Journalist against crunch when they crunch all the time to make articles, videos, etc., says Zaf. Absolutely. Abso-goddamn-lutely. Okay, here's something else from the article that I thought was interesting, though. And this I like. I will say I like this trend that is showing up recently in video games, in entertainment. I just want to read you a couple of headlines. It's not censorship. Max B says Jaffe censorship. It's not. Thank you, Megadavo. I appreciate your ducats. I'm still not reading it, bitch. Now he drops $10. What do you think? You think I'm a whore and I have a price, and once you hit the price, I'll read it? Maybe I do. Let's find out. My guess to you, Megadavo, is you can't find the dollar amount that will make me read what you wrote. I bet you don't have the balls to put in $50 to make me read that. Darth Nugget, thank you for the 5. I appreciate it. He says poop. Well, of course I'll do. Of course I'll say that. Of course I'll say that. Afrally, you didn't need to pay for that goddamn shit. Afrally dropped it. Afrally's got a new channel. He's our newest God of War member. Congratulations, good sir. Thank you for that. He has a new channel where he's doing all kinds of cool editing and cuts. We're going to start advertising that, but he's been doing the ads for other God of War members, which I appreciate like crazy, and he's done the Day One Patch Kids, which we'll show you later today. What I love right now is, by the way, Megadavo is running to his mom going, Mom, can I put $50 on the card? What? Why do you need to do that? Mom, just tell me I can do it. Fine, whatever. Anyway, okay. Naughty Dog says, this is a trend. I'm just going to run through these very quickly. I love this because this kind of goes back earlier to me going, why, if we think games are art, which I do, Salty says, I thought super chats are like teleprompters. You have to read everything. That may be your stream, my good friend Salty, but that ain't mine. But maybe if he drops a 50 spot, if his mama lets him, maybe I'll read what he wrote. We are going to talk about Xbox versus PlayStation in just a second. You goddamn right we are. Listen to me. Cosmic says, I thought you'd talk dirty for $30. I'll do almost anything for $30. I won't suck off a hobo, but listen, let's move on. Can we get to the news? Come on now. Naughty Dog says it's unfortunate some people didn't like The Last of Us, but they stand by the game that they made. Well, I like that. That's pretty fucking good because you guys know good and well that Naughty Dog, they took a lot of shit from a lot of people about not liking The Last of Us. And now, again, it's easy to say this when you got a hit on your hands. It was a commercial success. But that said, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I like that. Okay. But there's not the only, in the space of a week, you've got a lot of entertainment companies that are pushing back, and I like to see it. Because this shit is art. It's creative. It's powerful. Okay. It's one thing to say, I didn't like The Last of Us Part 2. I didn't like The Last of Us Part 1. But they have a right to make it, and I support them making it. I don't own it. The reason I love it is because they put their heart and soul into it. Voilition won't back down to negative feedback on Saints Row reboot trailer. Says it's just a shock reaction. I think that's great. I think that's goddamn great. Look, I appreciate you may love Saints Row when it's done all wacky and strange. I do too. I love Saints Row when you're playing the goddamn president of the United States that goes to hell. It's fucking crazy. But guess what? If I had followed the winds of fandom, we would not have Twisted Metal Black, right? Because I felt that Twisted Metal was getting long in the tooth. And so I said, no, I want to move on from that, okay? Some people thought it was a bad idea. Some people thought it was a good idea. But end of the day, you want people making your creative work that are passionate about this shit. Don't you? I mean, trust me, you've seen what these games are like, fellas, when they are short order cooks for you. When it's basically just, I'm going to go paint by numbers of what the fans say they want. And then you go into the goddamn game that you say you want, and you're like, yay, they listen to the fans, and you play it for a couple of days, and then it dies. You need passion in the mix, or you're fucked, man. Okay, and we're seeing this more often, though. Aquaman 2 filmmakers won't remove Amber Heard because of Johnny Depp fans. Good. The Twitterverse, they say, doesn't dictate the story they want to tell. I like this. I like where this is going, okay? Here's another one. Now, this one, this is, now, other companies may be doing this, but they're the only one. They're the only one. I'm going to get to this one in a second. I will say they're the only game site I've seen do this. Maybe other people are doing it, but they're the first ones I notice. You tell me if there's other ones doing it, and I'll celebrate those motherfuckers as well. But I'll get to your RPG chat in just a second. Eddie Torres says, Saints Row, the new one, looks like a liberal arts college classroom that dropped out and lost their jobs at Starbucks because of Donald Trump and turned to a life of crime. I think that's brilliant. I think that's goddamn brilliant. I mean, I get it. It may not be for you. That's fine. I'm not jonesing to play the goddamn thing either. But so what? So fucking what? There's a lot more to the story than Johnny Depp fan, says Joey. I understand. Okay, I understand that he's talking about the Aquaman 2, that people say, Johnny Depp lost the case, but Amber Heard, clearly it's been proven that she was a bad guy, blah, 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 blah. Whatever. Then don't go see the movie. The Aquaman 2 filmmakers are basically saying, fuck off, right? Let us do our jobs. Where did it happen in America, in the world maybe, that everybody suddenly, I mean, you know what's funny? Here's what's funny. Maybe it's not. It's tragic, but it's weird. you can literally look at the qualifications or the quality of education in America, public education, going down and down and down and down, okay, over the last 20, 25 years. But you can also look at everybody thinks they're a fucking expert on everything. They're an expert on viruses now. They're an expert on global warming now. Now they're an expert on what should be in your games and your film. It's like, shut the fuck up. You have the ultimate power. Don't go see the movie. That's it. Don't buy the game. That's it. Okay? But people need to stop expecting these companies to cater to them. It's disgusting. Let people make their own shit, and if you want to see it, see it. I mean, can you imagine if Spielberg was like back in the day? It's like, I'd like to make this movie called E.T., but the focus group says he's ugly, so we got to make him cute and shit. I mean, come on, man. Enough. RPG, thank you for the super chat. He says, rest in peace, Mega Devo's balls. You goddamn right. I pushed him to the edge. I pushed him to the very edge. He couldn't go higher than 10. His mama stepped in and said, no, you're not giving that man any more money. He looks like Kratos if Kratos was real. Have you seen the IGN story? No way. Not giving it to that, member of the tribe. Yes, because the Jewy nose. I have the Jewy nose. Fuck you. Because my dad was Jewish. He was Jewish. I got the Jewy nose. When I was younger, I was like, oh, I want to get a nose job. Now I'm like, I'm happy with how I look, but let me bring in a couple of people, and then I want to talk about one more thing real quick, and then we'll bring in some people on the phone. This is just a little tip of the hat to Game Informer. They're talking about Hearthstone's new game mode Mercenaries, which I have not played. I don't think it's out yet, but I also haven't played their battle chess. We played AUDIOCLASH the other day on stream, which I liked, but I don't know enough about the genre to know how it plays. So I am going to spend some time with not Hearthstone, but Gwent, is it? Which was one of the earlier battle chesses before. But anyway, they have a new mode, but that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about this little writing at the top of the article from Game Informer. Before they even get to really what this article is about, they have this little thing here in the middle of it that says, it is important to keep in mind what is going on within Activision Blizzard at this time regarding ongoing allegations about the work culture. The ongoing lawsuit from California Department of Fair Employment of Housing against that company is an over-reported toxic workplace culture. The bulk of the suit focuses on violation, and it goes into it. And they give you a link. They give you a link so you can read the coverage, right? I just think it's nice. It's like, okay, they're saying, look, we're still going to cover one of the biggest, most successful video game companies in the world, but we're also going to make it clear that right at the top of the article, we're going to let you know, this is kind of what they do. I wouldn't mind if every time they covered a company that's known to crunch. Like if you're a goddamn Kotaku and you complain about crunch all the time, the next time you cover a Naughty Dog game, put a little disclaimer at the top. Have it like the Nintendo seal of quality. All these websites, it's like whenever we cover a studio that according to our values that we espouse to our readers, they get a gold ribbon or they get a little emoticon of poop. It doesn't mean we're not going to give their game a 10 out of 10. It doesn't mean we're not going to say their game is game of the year, but we're going to let you know the kind of place that made it in our opinion. I think that would be fantastic. That would be fucking fantastic. Jaffe says, Tyler, if players didn't speak up, Battlefront 2 would still have egregious microtransactions and progression system. Well, that's true and it's not true. It's not true in the sense that that game would be shut down at that point, right? Gamers speak up simply by not playing or not purchasing, okay? I'm not saying gamers shouldn't express their opinion when a game comes out, but the idea that we're going to change Saints Row, we're going to change Sonic, we're going to change the Abby situation because gamers are telling we're going to change the ending of Mass Effect 3. I'm sorry. I mean, thank God for a lot of reasons. I can hear Hogwash now. Yeah, there's a lot of, but I mean, thank God I'm not working in games anymore because I wouldn't be able to handle it. That's somebody telling me I don't think this should happen to Kratos at the end of your game. And there's a poll over on the NeoGAF that says we don't like the fact that he dies. We like our heroes to live. Could you make them live? Fuck, I guess marketing says we got to make them. I mean, come on, man. No, I'm not doing it. I'm not participating in that bullshit. I won't do it. All right. In that case, every Jason Schreier article would have emoticon of poop because all companies are evil, says Doug. Well, I mean, yeah, but at least there'd be some consistency, right? Brian East, I don't know if I'm planning to play Horizon Zero Dawn. I've never played it, but I hear it's really kind of boring. That's why I haven't really gone to it. But we'll talk about that in just a second. We're going to talk about PlayStation versus Xbox and a new revelation I've had, but I want to get to these calls first. Hogwash says, buy a mug so Jaffe can get his nose fixed. Fuck a you, motherfucker. I'm telling you, I'm happy with my nose now. I'm happy with my looks now. I've become comfortable. But when I was younger, I was like anybody else. I was insecure about my looks. I was like, oh, I want to look like a traditional good-looking dude. Now I'm just like, oh, God. Thank God I didn't change anything. All right, let's bring in Zero Signal. Zero Signal, are you there? Where are you? What the hell? Zero Signal, are you there? God damn it. Zero Signal, are you there? What's up, bud? Can you hear me? Kotaru, are you there?
Yeah. Cordero, yeah.
Cordero. What's up, buddy? Go.
What's going on, Jeff, man? Hey, let me say it real quick, man. Your games kept me out of trouble. Real talk. So.
How?
Oh, when I was playing Twisted Metal growing up, man. I mean, back in the 90s, it kept me off of the streets because I grew up in Chicago.
Okay. Really? Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. That's wonderful.
Oh, yeah, man. Oh, yeah. Especially Twisted Metal 2, man. That cutscene that made that dude look like Will Smith. I was like, oh, is that Will Smith in this game?
Which cutscene made a guy look like Will Smith?
It was, I believe it was when the blimp was coming down and the guy was like screaming on the bridge. And it looked like literally that drawing looked like Will Smith at the time.
Wow. Okay. Well, there you go. Interesting. Okay. Well, I'm glad I'm on behalf of all of us who made it. I'm so glad that you enjoyed it. And yeah, man, if it actually kept you out of trouble, holy shit, that was never the intent. But boy, what a nice thing to learn. Thanks, man.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Hey, real quick, man. I don't want to go on too much of a rant.
Okay.
And one thing is, crunch, I think, is just part of the nature of like almost every business, so to speak. I work in the animation industry. You got to do a little bit crunch time to hit those deadlines because you're working for a company that want to make money. I mean, simple as that. And also, when it comes to video games, I'm all for another company that get inspired off another video game. For example, when your fantastic game God of War came out, people was calling Heavenly Sword the female version of God of War. I mean, you had Dante's Inferno that came out. Same thing, Resident Evil 4. I'm not 100% sure, but it looks like after when it came out with the back angle, Gears of War was heavily inspired by that.
Yeah, everything builds on everything else. I mean, that's the way it's always been. My guess would be fucking cave paintings built on on cave paintings that came before. I mean, that's how shit works.
I'm all for it, man. That's all I got.
Wait. I have a question. So you work in the animation industry, is that right?
Yes.
What do you do? Without being too specific, if you don't want to say what you're on, but what kind of animation?
Oh, it's all good. It's already out. I do 2D animation. I jump around from company to companies. I've been with this one company for 2 years now, but I worked on Rick&Morty season 4 and season 5. I worked on F's for Family season 4. So I do 2D animation, specifically puppet animation.
Oh, you mean like on Unity or computer puppet?
On Harmony.
Okay.
Yeah, right on.
Well, here's my question though. Okay, so you are freelance, is that correct?
I sometimes do freelance, but at the moment I'm working with a company on another TV show, which cannot mention as you already stated. Okay, but
are you in a union?
No, I'm not in a union.
Are TV animators or are animators in film and television unionized?
See, it all depends on that. Like right now, I'm from the States, but I'm working in Canada, and if we was to go back in history when Walt Disney was treating these animators like dog doo and all that other stuff. Right. I mean, you can argue on how those unions was built, and that's why in California you have DreamWorks, You have Pixar. They are part of that union. But outside of that, you talk about like Floyd County. You talk about Bento Box. That's under like Fox, Century Fox.
Yeah.
They not under a union. Now, there's some people that's fighting for the union, but certain times, I kind of have a push and pull with the union simply because you can't if we was Disney coming out with movies every year. They got movies playing for like 10, 15 years. But if it's a company like I don't want to pick on anybody, but let's just say a company that's coming out with a TV show. What I did not know before I came in the industry, you have to do a test before you actually take on the show. You can't just be like, hey, we think you're the chosen one. Come on in and make this cartoon. No. Hey, I got 5 different companies that's interested in making this new show for Disney. We're going to give you a test. We're going to see if you can do the animatic, and we're going to see who's best.
Okay.
And so you're fighting for those contracts. So what the thing with the union is, the union can't guarantee the company to get a contract for the studio. They're only there to make sure people get paid fair, which is fantastic. But if there's no contracts, what's the point of the union?
Well, yeah. Well, that's the reason I ask is I always operate when it comes to video games and unions under the assumption that folks like yourself or folks in the visual effects industry or whatnot who don't actually have to be on location to make the entertainment, companies can outsource 2D animation and 3D animation all over the place, and they do, right? I mean, are the companies that you're with always competing with these much less expensive companies in places like Shanghai and whatnot to get a deal?
Well, the good part is it actually changed now because Shanghai or Taiwan, whatever the case would be, now, like before, back in the day, we talk about traditional animation. They was able to get literally. I got this from someone that actually worked out there. He said they can literally get somebody out on the street. They can build them a light table and be like, hey, we're gonna get you these small scenes. We're gonna build you up. But when it comes to like Toon Boom, when it comes to like Harmony, when it comes to Unity, like this stuff takes money. You gotta have the equipment. You can't just take somebody off of the street and be like, hey, I'm gonna train you Unity in 5 months. Get it together. No, you gotta have people that's specifically training it, that have the passion for it, because hey man, it's a hard business when you gotta stay up, when you gotta stay focused. I've been working at home for like a whole year, and it's getting to me, but I gotta be able to, motivate myself to reach my deadlines.
Right.
Because, I ain't trying to be harsh, anything like that, but you gotta get things done, and I gotta keep getting paid. And if I don't reach those deadlines, it's just like, hey man, they probably can't find anybody immediately after me, but it's one of those things like, okay, but we got to kind of ease him out a little bit at the door if he's trying to hit these deadlines.
Right.
And then we're going to bring somebody in, like, very slowly. But
gotcha.
But just to answer your question, I think that the industry already changed now. That's why 2D and 3D is coming back to the States and also Canada, simply because overseas is getting expensive, or even more expensive for the animation side and also the communication. Because before, when we were sending animatics overseas, we had to like literally put animation to animatic because they just didn't understand, the principles of animation. So and also it was the time frame.
Right.
I can't really communicate a contract with somebody or a specific scene 5-6 hours difference. So now it's a lot of companies like working. I work in Montreal. Well, you got the Ubisoft, you got some of the EA studios and all that other stuff, and Rockstar. So, they on the same central time lot as now I'm
yeah, I got you. Yeah. I do work with a company in Poland. I'm up till 3:00 in the morning a bunch of times on phone calls. So, all right, bud. Well, I appreciate the education. I appreciate you calling in. Thanks, man.
Sure, man.
All right, talk to you soon. Well, there he goes. Good. That's a good call. Good guy to talk to. I've never talked to anybody who does 2D animation. Very, very interesting. Joe says, by the way, in Canada, where he lives, with manufacturing jobs, a company that has a union cannot outsource the work. That's against the law. If the company moves buildings, the company is still unionized. No, in America, that is not the way at all. That is absolutely not how it works at all. They can outsource wherever the fuck they want to. I'm going to try Zero Signal one more time, then we're going to move on. There you go. What's up, buddy?
Hey,
yep.
Hey, what's going on?
What's up?
Hey, so I wanted to come back to that Naughty Dog interview for a minute. So I realize I'm probably talking to the wrong guy here, but Do you think that there would be any benefit to some of these developers just not talking as much as they have been? Because I was thinking about this earlier. You know, no one knows a fucking thing about Sam Houser or Dan Houser because those dudes have never said a word in their life on an interview anywhere. And, like, they just, you know, kept making games and kept putting them out and sold them, and that was that. And then so, like, here's this Naughty Dog interview, and there's no answer that they can give on crunch that's going to make anyone happy, right? Like, that's just the way it is. I mean, it made me happy. I thought their ideas sounded good. I thought they was good when they were what they were working with before. But, like, you know, if someone's asking them about crunch, there's nothing that they can say that's going to be good as far as the rest of the press goes, especially something like Kotaku or something. So, like, do you think that there's a world where, like, developers just kind of stop having interviews as often as they do? Or is there any benefit to these interviews at the end of the day?
I honestly, I mean, as somebody, you know, I did a lot of interviews. I enjoyed doing them. When I was a kid growing up loving movies, I enjoyed reading them. So there's a fandom that gets served, but no, I honestly don't. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think you can point to a direct line. So take the Naughty Dog interview. I can't fathom doing that interview where they talked about crunch and how, hey, we wish more people loved Last of Us 2, but we stand by our game. I can't imagine there's a world where, because that interview, marketing and sales feel the next game Naughty Dog puts out, whatever it is going to suddenly do better or worse. So I think other than actual previews of, like, hey, this is a build of the game and this is what's coming, or just things that the company directly controls, like, you know, here's a video from State of Play from Sony. Yeah, I don't really see the point. I know fans like it, but no, I would agree with you. Nobody knows what Dan Houser thinks or Sam Houser thinks. Nobody, I mean, you know, yeah, I think you're absolutely correct on that.
Cool.
Yep.
All right, I was just curious what your thought was. All right.
Yep. All right, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, bud.
Thanks for your time.
All right. There you go. All right. I want to jump to Xbox versus PlayStation really quickly. Before I do want to show you one quick thing, if you'll indulge me. This video is a little too long. After Alley, it's the second cut of it. It's a lot better. It's great, actually. It's better than anything I could do. But I think it's a little long. I'm going to show you most of it. But I love where it's going. I think you will too. This is for our very own Day One Patch Kids from Rotten. I'm not even going to try the last name. I always get it wrong. And then after this, we're going to talk about Xbox versus PlayStation. Here we go.
It's the Metal Gear Man himself, Sneaky Snake. The child of the Chozo, Spacey Samus.
Joel Miller.
Uh-oh. It's the Joel and Y.
Say more. Do I need to say more? You get these great characters, these great takes on wonderful, iconic video game characters, and you get them all on all kinds of shirts and merch and all kinds of things like that. That's Day One Patch Kids by our very own Rotten Tanuki. Check out his site. You should be seeing it popping into the chat at any moment. Okay. Call of Duty Vanguard. Anybody play Call of Duty Vanguard this weekend? Call of Duty Vanguard did the I love the Joel one. That's my favorite one. Oh, Matt B says cringe. Is it cringe? Cringe is the worst fucking word that has come down the line ever. I'm so tired of the word cringe. It is so gross. Feel cringe. No offense, Matt B. But anyway, there you go. There you go. Check out that stuff. It's really, really good. I love his stuff. So Vanguard. A couple of you guys played Vanguard. I played Vanguard. This was interesting to me. See, this is fascinating to me. Call of Duty Vanguard, most people didn't like it. We got people in the chat saying it looks like a game from 2013, no innovation. Played a couple of rounds, says Afropunk, then I uninstalled it. Beats Games Life says Vanguard is trash. I was fascinated by this because I played it. Now, if you don't know what this mode is, and I didn't even fully understand it, truth be told, but it's some kind of round robin where, and this was all they had on play for this weekend, where they start everybody in a circle and you can run around, pick up weapons, whatever. And then then they pair you up with one other person. And you can do it with trios as well, but I played duos this weekend. And then you and your buddy, whether you know them or not, get randomly, or maybe it's match made, but within that circle, there's another 2 people, duo, that you get put into a small battle with and you fight. And you have a limited number of lives for the whole experience. And when you run them, you get kicked out, right? It's not like this, but it's kind of like when you're playing those racing games and it's the person, every time you go to you're the last one, you explode. And then the next last one explodes until the final best ones are the only ones in, they win. And then every couple of rounds, they'll put you back into, it's kind of like, what's that fucking classic shooter, first-person shooter, hardcore, where you buy shit for your team, Counter-Strike. Every 3 rounds or so, they put you back in that circle where you can run around and buy shit, and you get money during the rounds by risking to get pickups that have money and kills that have money and things like that. And I played it, and I was kind of like, this is really fucking interesting. Like, it's more interesting to me than most just, oh, look, it's more Call of Duty Team Deathmatch. Like, I could see a lot of interesting tactics and nuance and depth and really interesting team play, because you can also do things like, in the middle of the match, you have a gun, right? And you can say, oh, for $300 in this match, you can automatically upgrade the gun in real time. So you're running around, I don't know guns, but you're running around with the rifle and, oh, I just picked up $300. I'm going to press right on the D-pad. Now it has a better scope. Oh, I survived a little longer. I got another $500. Now I'm going to add a grenade launcher, whatever. Or you can pocket all that money and wait and hope that you have it when you go to the store every 3 rounds, right? There's so much possibility. Like, dude, you have to fucking protect me. You're on my team. I have this amazing gun. Don't let me die. You run cover while I'm taking these guys out so we can make it to the next round. There's just a lot of interesting possibility. But what's fascinating is it reminds me, not in terms of netcode, I'm not fishing for compliments, don't even go there, I'll ignore them if you write them, but like I remember when we did Twisted Metal 2012, and I was so proud of the nuance and the depth of what you could do in the multiplayer in terms of team play, and this character needs this help and this character needs this support, and all these kind of, you know, mental gymnastics you could go through to get really good at the game with you and your team. And it just, you know, it really kind of feels like designer porn. Like every now and then a game like that will work, but more often than not, people really just kind of want deathmatch, right? They want better deathmatch than what we got back in the day with arena shooters, but they don't, you know, even a guy in the chat right now, a guy named Baltus, says none of that stuff sounds fun. I don't agree with you. I think it sounds like a lot of fun. Saltist in the chat says, I thought the new mode was awesome. But I do think a lot of people, if you go through the forums on Reddit, on NeoGAF, which are the 2 I looked at, both of those were like, yeah, we hate this mode. We fucking hate this mode. So that Darth Nugget says, is that what they call meta? That's what I call meta. Somewhere along the lines, just like the word biome, meta got hijacked by things like Hearthstone or hero shooters, and meta simply meant the strategy of what loadout you pick or what card system you pick. And that's not really meta. Meta is the thing that sits above the moment-to-moment gameplay that enriches the moment-to-moment gameplay with choices you make that are at a removed level from simply aiming and shooting. Right, Matt B says it's the brownest Call of Duty ever. I saw a lot of people talking about the graphics, and I was just like, oh, okay. I mean, it looked fine. The mode was what they were really showing off. I know starting Monday, Battlefield is running an open beta this weekend, or alpha, and that's beta. If you bought it or pre-ordered it, you get in on Saturday. But for everyone else who hasn't, that goes live Monday, and I will be playing that as well. Okay, Balta says we've been playing the same type of matches for decades. Things have to change more. Look, I would never try to pass myself off as anywhere near of an expert as of a shooter genre expert. But are you telling me that mode is relatively common, where you round robin between I understand there are duo matches, but where it's 2v2 and then that is living in a pot like a ladder match, and then on the battlefield you can make choices of how to spend your money, or you can bank it and use it later if you survive long enough to get to the store a second or third time. Maybe that exists all over the place. I've never seen that. I didn't see that in Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike is you play, and then after the round, you go back to the store, or when you die, I forget. But it's to me, that's a very different experience. Jaffe loves, I really don't, Bacon Magma. Jaffe loves going against the popular opinion. He loves being controversial. The only time people say that is when I'm disagreeing with something that they don't agree with. I literally tweeted last night or 2 nights ago, Ghost of Tsushima is one of my favorite games of all time. Okay, in fact, let's get into that, because I had an epiphany about console wars, and I want to share it. Okay, so here's what's going on. I am playing a lot recently of Sony first party games on my PlayStation 5. Okay, I've been playing Ghost of Tsushima forever, but I waited to play it. I got the director's cut. I'm playing it obsessively. I'm playing Miles Morales. I'm loving that. This is not on this list. Obviously, I loved God of War. I love Last of Us Part 2. And I'm still playing Days Gone. Okay? And what's really fascinating to me, and I'm loving all of these games, like Last of Us, Days Gone, God of War, Miles Morales, and Ghost of Tsushima are just the best examples ever of single-player narrative games, in terms of action narrative games that you're going to find. They are top of the food chain, okay? But what I love about this generation, and again, this may or may not change, I don't fucking know. I haven't played Psychonauts 2 yet. But this is really the first console generation that I have seen maybe ever where, at least at the moment, I love both of these consoles because they offer such different things, right? It's like, so I know Saltius is a dyed-in-the-wool hardcore Sony fanboy. I honestly don't understand it. I understand the business value of being that and making a channel about that. I get that. But I don't understand, like, at this point, when I was playing Xbox, like, Xbox announced a bunch of brand new games coming out for Game Pass, not just their own, but there's they had a showcase recently. I guess it was Gamescom or something. But I mean, they had all the ones that you've seen: the Gunk, Psychonauts, Crusader Kings, Into the Pit, Age of Empires. They had a bunch of other ones that are indie games and stuff like this. I mean, if you are a gamer and you're not enjoying Game Pass, you're a fucking moron. You're a goddamn fucking moron. I know you do, Salty. That's what I'm saying. But I think you're a hardcore Sony fanboy first and foremost. But for me, what I love about this is the difference now between these consoles is so very clear because of Game Pass and because of Sony first party, that when I was having that experience over the weekend of playing a lot of these first party games, and I had been playing a bunch of Xbox games earlier in the week on Game Pass, I was just like, how are people shitting on either one of these? They're so different from each other that it's the equivalent of like complaining about, I don't know, a fucking Ford Bronco and a Ferrari. They're made to do very different things. And again, I understand that Microsoft would very much like to have first-party quality games, and they might. and then those comparisons would be maybe it would make a little more sense. But right now, look, if somebody came to me and said today, which one of these do I buy? That's a really easy but hard choice, because you don't want to miss out on some of the greatest single player video games ever made, which you can only get on PlayStation right now. Again, I haven't played Psychonauts 2 yet. I don't know what's going to be happening with the Bethesda games, but for the most part, you can only play those on PlayStation at the moment in terms of the very best. Maybe it'll change, but if we're just basing on what we have today, I'd struggle, because I'd be like, well, you can play the very best in that genre today, but there's not a lot of them. You know, you'll be done, and they don't release a lot of them every year, but boy, they're amazing. Or you can get the Xbox, and you can get an incredible value, and you're getting games all the fucking time. It's really an amazing choice, and I don't think you fail either way. Vegeta says, of course, more people are buying Xbox. I don't think Xbox, other than 1 month, has outsold Sony, and right now, so much of that is because of, hardware availability. Nothing else. I don't think you can actually. There's no way to really judge that, is there? I mean, they're so constrained with hardware. I only bought Series X because of the Halo 20th anniversary console. Oh, cool. Well, I hope you're enjoying it, Eddie. I mean, it's a great system. I love it. Matt B, I think that's perfect. I've always been saying this. Your analogy's better. I've always been saying that Xbox Game Pass is like McDonald's and Sony's like Ruth's Chris, but yours is better. Matt B says Xbox is basic cable, PlayStation is HBO. I think that's absolutely right. And some days you want to just kick back and watch the fucking Hallmark Channel. And just go, I just want to watch, maybe a viewership class. Some days I want to watch the Hallmark Christmas movies. Fuck you, motherfucker. And some days, or you want to watch 31 Days of Halloween on whatever it was, AMC or TBS. And some days you want to watch premium television. It's neither is better. They both fill a void. Mega Devo, I'm not reading that. He drops did mommy not let you? Mega, no. You can only spend $4 more on your computer game. Right? Mega, thank you, buddy, for the super chat. I appreciate it, bud. Andy Lee says if Starfield reviews well, it will be a system seller. Yeah, of course. I love Jerry A. I'm not disrespecting it. I love it. I do want to tell you one thing. They did an interview with Tim Schafer, though. Game Informer. Game Informer's doing a lot. No, this is Game Industry Biz. Sorry. They did an interview, and they asked him specifically about Game Pass, and this is what I want to ask him when we get him on pretty soon. But I want to read, because I like that Schafer, one of the, viewed by many as one of the most creative guys working in games. I like how Schafer is saying something very similar to what I've been saying, not because it's like, see, Schafer said it, I must be right. But because I think the more gamers hear from people who have made games or who are making games, the people who are not understanding the value of Game Pass creatively, maybe they'll start to understand why creative folks are excited by it. This is what little Timmy Schafer says. He says, I think everything is moving in some form or another to subscription. That's just a relationship with players, which I think is great for Double Fine, where we want to do something new and original and surprising, which means there might be a higher barrier of entry for players who don't know what this is. And by lowering that barrier financially, where there is not a matter of buying one $70 game or another, and it's more about the time it takes to download it, because they're all up there, I think that's a huge way for Double Fine games to find their audiences faster. He says, Schafer thinks being clever about being in a positive place when the subscription thing takes over is sort of what's good for Double Fine. And for whatever drawbacks subservices have in the future, he notes they have some concrete benefits as well. He says Netflix definitely has its own ecosystem, but it's funding a lot of original content, he adds. And a lot of those services are funding and creating shows, and really high quality shows are coming into existence that would not have existed either way in, say, network television models. For us, being part of Game Pass, was being on the positive side of that. Let's be original, new, great content is being funded and created, so that made sense to us. So again, you know, that's not just me saying it. Now you've got Tim Schafer saying it. You've got a bunch of people who actually do creative work for a living going, this is not the evil that you guys think it is. It's pretty fucking good. It's pretty fucking good. It lets us, I mean, seriously, it lets them make games that you that you love, because again, this all goes back to either you're full of shit or you're serious when you say games are art. Games are art, which means you should demand higher pedigree directors. If I told you Brett Ratner was directing the God of War movie, wouldn't you say, what the fuck? The fact that you guys aren't raising the roof Resident Evil fans because the guy who's directing the Resident Evil movie has never made a hit movie or a good Rotten Tomatoes score movie in his fucking life, whether it's audience score or critic score, that's telling. That's telling. This is your thing. You love Resident Evil. It's been given to a hack. Maybe. Seemingly. Right? Here you've got creative artists like Tim Schafer saying this allows us to do work where we're able to be creative. I hate Game Pass. It's shitty. I'm just saying. It's either art or it's not, but, you know, you got to walk the fucking walk, man. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm goddamn saying. Okay, we'll talk about that later. That's tomorrow. That's it. That's it. That's the show for the day. I'll take some chats. You guys want to chat for a few minutes, and then I'm out, but I will absolutely be back tomorrow. You know, Ratchet came and went so much for graphics, says No Dog. Let me tell you something. Here's what's fascinating about that. I don't know if you guys saw this, but NeoGAF has a thread going right now where it's a poll. Game of the Year 2021 so far. Do you know, as of right now, the number one game? Let me give you the top. Let me give you the top 5. Okay, this is what NeoGAF audiences have said is their game of the year. Okay, 5.2% say Returnal. No, sorry, It Takes Two is their game of the year. Interesting. Then we have Resident Evil Village at 14.8 game of the year. Psychonauts 2 comes up 19.9%. Don't know, I haven't played it. Returnal makes sense to me at 21%. And then Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is currently leading at 21.3%. Again, this is why all this shit is stupid. This is why all this shit is fucking stupid. Everybody's got agendas. The PlayStation fans are voting for Ratchet and Clank. The Xbox fans are voting for Psychonauts. It's like the only game that anybody's read on here that really seems like it deserves to be there. Haven't played Psychonauts 2. But Returnal and It Takes Two are two games that are meaningfully pushing the medium forward. Everything else is great. I literally said Psychonauts 2 is a goddamn classic. But to say that that's a game of the year, come on now. Let's be honest. Gears is greater than Halo. What's up, bud? How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good.
What's going on? What do you want to talk about?
I kind of just want to talk about the basic cable sort of thing.
Okay.
Or whatever the analogy was.
Yeah, go for it.
My personal opinion on this, because I look at the studios Microsoft has, I think they're, like, if you look at In Exile putting out Wasteland 3, you have Obsidian with Outer Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're a bit higher than just basic cable in terms of quality for some of those studios. Not all of them, but some of them really put out some quality games. I feel like that's kind of like not a good way to explain it.
You know,
it just sounds like generic.
Yeah, well, okay. I see your point, and it's a good point. I think it's an analogy that works, but it does break down in some ways, because you're right. Like, I thought Wasteland 3 was phenomenal. Wasteland 3 was one of my top 10 games of last year. But I think if you're just talking about more mainstream commercial console games, I think that's maybe where the analogy works. But absolutely, like if you a lot of people gave the writing last year best writing to Last of Us Part 2, and I love The Last of Us Part 2, but the writing in Wasteland 3 is so much richer because it's interactive, because that story can go all over the place for the most part based on how you play it. Well, that's better video game writing than Last of Us, which is pretty much a linear story that's the same for almost everybody. So I don't think you're wrong, but I think if you're talking about what most people are talking about, which is production value and sort of commercialization of the medium, I think that's where the HBO versus basic cable does work. But you're absolutely right, because there are some amazing, brilliant games on from first party Xbox. It's just none of them so far have come close to achieving that level of sort of next-gen production value and polish and sort of execution of intellectual property. Like, I don't think anybody's going to go around this year, dressed up at Halloween as one of the Wasteland 3 characters. But I'm pretty sure we'll see some Abbies and Joels and Ellies and all that shit this Halloween, assuming Halloween happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it, buddy.
No problem.
Andy Lee, it's Jaffe. What's up, bud?
Hey, Jaffe, I just wanted to say I listened to the entire interview you had with Mike Arkin. I loved it.
He's a great guy.
That guy's great. Yeah, it was a lot of surprising information that came from him. I have somebody that he reminds me of, and it relates to, remember you guys talked a bit about how he has a hard time finding a job right now? And
I don't think he said he had a hard time right now. I think he said in the past he has.
Okay, yeah, historically.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I have a theory as to why, and it's who he reminds me of. Okay. Fargo, 1996, Coen Brothers.
I saw it. Great movie. Movie.
The character played by Peter Stormare, the Steve Buscemi's partner. He's the blonde, slick back hair, quiet, barely says 5 words in the whole movie, completely stoic. He's that guy. And who the hell would want to work with that dude for 10 hours in an office? Come on.
I don't know. There he is. I brought him up on the screen. He does kind of look like that guy. He kind of does. Oh, but he's the guy with the wood chipper, right? Oh, he's a local. He's from Fargo, actually.
And not just looks like him, but like the way Mike responded to all of your jokes throughout the show without a crack of a smile, just completely dead. Dude, that's the guy. And that's why nobody wants to work with the dude. That's all I want to say. It was a great interview. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. And by the way, if you're into the interviews, this Thursday, we have the Edmund... oh my God, I'm blanking on his last name. McClellan? Is it McClellan? The guy who made Super Meat Boy and Binding of Isaac. I can't believe I'm blanking on his last name. Will be on the show, and we've got some new interviews coming up all throughout September. So check in for those. But yeah, man, thanks for listening to the mic when I enjoy doing it. He's a good dude. All right. Nawdog says Arkin's new game sucks. I don't agree with you, by the way. I don't agree with you. Edward McMillan, right? And Joe, you did a trailer for it. I got to show that. I'll tweet that out tonight. So yeah, no, I don't. I think AUDIOCLASH, which is his new game, I think it's hard for me to judge that game. I really love the theme of it, but I don't know how to play auto chess, and so I'm sitting there doing a lot of shit, thinking I understand it, and then Spazbo still wins like he wins everything, and I'm like, I don't really get it. Doug says if you're 1 hour in and you have no clue how to do anything, you need better onboarding. Yeah, I mean the game is not out yet. It's not even an alpha yet. So and I think there's a big learning curve. I agree, but I think a lot of that is that it's not finished. Like, I think they need an interactive tutorial. I can't fathom they're not working on it, because the tutorial they have, which is just videos, it makes a lot of assumptions about you knowing that genre. So who's to say? But I certainly didn't know what the fuck I was doing. But I do like something about it, so I'm going to play it again. I agree with that, Nawdog. It's not user friendly yet, but again, it's not done yet, right? So it's not a complete title. Okay, hang on a second. Let me put this here. There we go. Is it true you're the head of Blizzard? Yeah, sure, why not? Well, Bacon says, Jaffe, thoughts on women having mustaches. Is it okay or is it nasty? It's not my cup of tea, Bacon. I mean, look, I can't speak to everybody, and I think that a woman, just like a man, has a right to present themselves however the fuck they want to present themselves. But that said, everybody's got, personal preference, and it's certainly not one of mine. I'm not into that, but, your mileage may vary. Okay, listen to me. That has been Gabbin' and Games. I'm going to try to get this podcast up as soon as possible after dinner tonight. Or maybe I'll stream. So I got some new Steam games I want to play tonight online. We'll see what happens. I don't know I don't know where the winds will take me, fellas. But the point is, no, Living Tombstone is a big band online, Naw Dog. I don't know them, but I'm 50 years old. But Living Tombstone is actually a thing that people like. My kids' friends are big fans of them. Scott McClellan says, Bacon asked Jaffe if he's going to vote for the black guy for governor. No, I fucking hate that guy. Larry Elder? No, I have no interest in that dude. Yeah, I did see that, Joe. I was going to talk about that today. I don't really have anything to say about it, really, other than Joe says the National Assembly of South Korea has voted to pass a law that will force Apple and Google to let developers use alternate payment methods. Right. I mean, that's a big deal in South Korea. The real question is if that's going to have any sway over the lawsuit that I think, correct, is still pending over Apple and Epic and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, who the fuck's to say? I don't know. Also, I was going to talk about the China thing, right? Where I don't know what that's going to cause in China, where China has come out and said that video games are spiritual opium, and that kids now, minors, can only play. I mean, this is amazing. This is amazing that minors are only able to play 3 hours of games a week from Friday and Saturday, 8 to 9 o'clock. And you've got these companies like Tencent and whatnot that are big fucking game companies over there. I don't know. I mean, this is again, China does a lot of interesting things that because they don't have the regulations we have. And sometimes that's good. And sometimes, like, being able to do crazy medical research that we have too much religion in the way to do. But shit like this, I don't know, man. Fuck you, government, telling me how many hours my kids can fucking play. But again, though, end of the day, China will probably rule the world and will be a historical chapter, maybe. Right? Because ultimately, you raise a bunch of people who can't access media, that have to do this, that have to do that. Yeah, freedom's the most powerful thing, but at the same time, you'll be able to achieve a lot more shit without wasting people's time playing video games. Like, no, you got to go to school. I don't know, man. Right, I agree, Baltus. They'll be more productive for it. That's right. I mean, that's the truth. If you live under a dictatorship, and the dictatorship is currently saying school is more important, money's more important, education's more important, whatever, you're going to end up, there's going to be some good that comes out of that. And it's going to be hard to compete when you've got a bunch of students coming out of China going all over the world that only got to play video games for a couple hours a week versus America's kids or Canada's kids that get to live on their fucking phones. Who do you think is going to be more in line to rule the fucking planet? Not that anybody should rule, but you know what I'm saying. China game companies should start making shorter games, says Ryan. That might, yeah, there you go. Do you think it will stifle China's new generation of developers? I mean, that's a great question, Dan. I have no idea how this will affect the Chinese game industry because it is growing. But yeah, you're absolutely right. They've only been able to legally sell consoles. It wasn't that long ago you couldn't even sell a PlayStation in China. Now, I wonder. It's like, well, why are we going to spend money on a fucking PlayStation? You can only play it a few hours a week. I mean, there are adults, of course. Yeah, Darth Nugget says, where are the 50-cent soldiers at? Oh, my God, man. Oh, my God. That thread, I did a post about China recently about the Wukong game, and I was just like, people are still saying, it's like the same account saying the same shit to me. I'm like, dude, keep posting. You know how much money those videos are making me? Please, keep engaging with the video. It's not like I'm responding to you guys. Okay. No, I don't think anybody should regulate anything, Bacon Magma. But there are consequences to that. Yeah, Eddie's probably right. China will just make games for everywhere else but China. I mean, it's not a bad point, right? China's like, no, keep making addictive games. We're not going to let you guys play them, but we'll fucking sell them to the world, and their kids will grow up into sloths, and that'll give us, it's almost more ammunition. It's like the Trojan horse of China isn't a Trojan horse, it's Tencent, right? I mean, it's TikTok, right? It's all these things that keep us from being productive, and then they limit their production, or they limit the things that stop their citizens from being productive, and then we get wiped out. It's good tactic. I leaned over, should come on the show, you old so-and-so. I tell you, AA titles will become staple console sellers in China. I don't know, Mark. I don't know if that's true. You think it's for online games only. Games played locally don't require one to log in. I'm sure they could, and they might. I don't know. Let's see. Identity cards are required already for playing online. While a facial recognition system introduced in July by tech giant Tencent is effective at catching kids pretending to be adults. So I don't know though. I don't think China is sitting there going, it's online games is the problem though, right? I think what they're saying is it's games in general. So I would be stunned if they didn't say, well, you got to check even if it's a single player game, but I could be wrong. Imagine defending China bullshit, says Jar. I mean, I only defend its effectiveness. I think it's horrible. But I'm also raised in the West where, freedom and democracy, or at least perceived democracy, are things to live and die for. But I'm not naive enough to think that if I wasn't raised with that, those ethics, that I wouldn't be able to understand that there are other ways of living that some people could, there are people in China that like the way China is. I don't. And there's a lot of people over there that can't stand it. But there are people who are like, no, man, I get it. We don't have the same freedoms, but we have a lot of things that you guys don't have because freedom is messy and violent and divisive, and it comes at a cost, and it does. But I've been conditioned and raised to think that cost is acceptable. And I do think that. But all right, well, there you go. That's the games. That's the world of games, fellas. I will be back, like I said, tonight, tomorrow. We'll do a lot more streams this week. But in the meantime, RPG, thanks for modding. Everybody give a good thought to Rob the mod out there in Louisiana. I hope he's well. Thank you guys for the super chats. I appreciate it. Thank you for the good conversation. Thank you for the calls. I will see you guys